speaking, we've seen D.Va have success on this map, and it's actually a pretty good map for her in terms of controlling some space in between those lanes. But let's get into it. Game number 4, as we have L5 currently leading 2-1 here against MVP Black.
Okay, no ABBA ban for the first time.
Yeah, the Hawka ban on L5's side, they can pick up the Abathur as the first pick if they really want to. I think it would be a pretty good choice here, and we do see it. Honestly, I think L5, they seem to be playing better overall than MVP Black. That last game might have just been a little bit too much showboating, like you said, Grubby. I mean, not picking the cleanse for your Vala, such a heavy risk. Picking the D.Va over the Tassadar, and the D.Va play there was not what I imagined. There were a lot of defense matrix that just were not on point whatsoever, and plays such as using the explosion to do damage to the race as opposed to using it to zone your opponents off while they're pushing. It just shows that they're not that practiced on D.Va to me. You get way more value by using it to defend than using it to race when you know you're going to lose no matter what.
Completely agree, and even the angling of the explosion as he torpedoed that thing forward was never truly purely the mechanics you would expect from a very experienced D.Va player like myself. No, just kidding. Just kidding. I'm terrible. But yeah, you would expect better. But anyway, this is a great start. Abathur into a Nubarak and Uther. You can still go anywhere.
Fan, you've played a lot of Illidan in your days. You first rotation Illidan Tassadar, knowing good and well that you're giving up a Nubarak and Uther, the potential Divine Storm into some other stuns. What about that makes sense, and what about that worries you?
So the good thing about that rotation is you have the Tassadar, so even if they go for the Divine Storm, you have some form of protection. And honestly, this draft is, I don't know, I kind of like it for MVP Black right now. The Abathur is not the scariest damage dealer to an Illidan. A hat is just, depending on the clone target, if it's not a scary clone, then Illidan is actually quite good into the Abathur. The Anubrak and the Uther, bigger problems, but you have the Tassadar to offset that. And, you know, they managed to take away the Arthas as well. So more and more, it looks like this Illidan is going to have a pretty good game. L5 needs 2 good picks here, 1 clone target, and these picks need to be able to deal with the Illidan.
What's more, MVP Black is picking so fast that they're mentally turning on the pressure on L5. Like, they have the momentum now. They won the last game, and they want to pressure L5. It looks so confident what MVP Black is doing. Even if it is bluff, the effect may still be the same upon the psychology of L5.
Yeah, I mean, not only the Arthas pick, by the way, too, the Li Ming pick. Li Ming is one of the better damage dealers into the Illidan just for the magic damage. You can bypass evasion, calamity and such. It's pretty easy to hit normally. And they go with the Zeratul Greymane. I think the Zeratul into Illidan matchup is more or less of a skill matchup, especially when it's Zeratul Abathur versus Illidan Tassadar. Both have an enabler. It's going to be very skill dependent in this game, I think.
Do you think Tychus would have been very wrong for L5?
Over the Greymane, I find them to be similar. At that point, it's more of a preference pick. I would slightly prefer the Greymane just because he's a little bit more in meta right now.
Sure.
We're all in on the side of MVP Black. The speed with which that draft went could be our fastest, most definitive draft yet.
It could be. And we're back on the Karazim Meriday hype train. So I guess from this point on, since they were 1 map away from elimination, Meriday's like, all right, it's back to the good old Karazim. It's back to the hero that made me famous, and I'm going to keep running with that all the way through the tournament, even though the other 2 are really good, Malfurion and Uther. But anyway, of course, they were limited somewhat in all of that. Now, looking at how the draft has played out, what do you think?
This is, again, just, I looked up some history here. This iteration of MVP Black has not run an Illidan comp on Cursed Hollow since they formed at the beginning of this year. I'm not saying that they can't. It's just, are you practiced enough? I mean, it's about as standard as it gets. I mean, you've got Tash shielding, you've got Karazim Meriday's arguably best hero, you've got a great frontliner, you've got great damage. How does it really go wrong? Is it just execution at that point? You talked about skill matchups between Illidan and Zeratul. You know, there's a lot of tools. Greymane on the other side, cloning Greymane. That's a huge threat towards any composition whatsoever. But you got to think that with MVP, they obviously feel confident with the speed with which they drafted.
Predictions, Jay Howe?
This is probably the toughest one yet. I'm still on the L5 train. I'm not hopping off yet. Give me L5.
Okay.
L5 is more meta. MVP Black is more taking a gamble here. I think they're in a position where they probably need to, as they didn't play as well as their opponent, probably in 3 games, I would say, besides the picks of talents from L5. I think I'll go with L5 on this one.
And finally, Fan.
I mean, I do like the Illidan composition here, but I feel like the global from the Abathur is going to be really hard for them to deal with without a global themselves. Gonna go with L5 again.
Okay, that's across the board, L5. Let's see what chat thinks as well, as you guys keep voting from home. Gone slightly over to MVP Black here. Grubby?
I do think MVP Black has a very strong early laning setup. When you send Illidan Tassadar in a lane, without the amount of bodies that Abathur comps provide, that could be a very strong early game. And if they can ride that to momentum, Black has a chance.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Time now to head over to our commentary team for game number 4, as MVP Black tries to keep themselves alive against L5.
If we have learned one thing out of the last few games, is that
I was jamming.
is that chat is a fickle beast, right?
Yeah, it is. You know, they are absolutely savage. But here we are, 1 game away from being able to take the series and knock out MVP Black. Is L5. Nacho Jin on Abathur, Noblesse on a new Barak, Swoi on Uther, Zeratul by Young, Ha, and SC on Greymane.
And to the right side, they won the last map. Can they force the 5th? It is MVP Black with Illidan, played by Reset, Tassadar by Kyoja, Tist on the Arthur, Saka on Li Ming, and Meriday on Karazim.
Meriday on the Karazim. It traditionally is not something you want with the Illidan, which maybe, you know, counterintuitive for anybody who isn't up on the support meta, but mainly it's just because you want something to be able to restore the HP of Illidan from low to very high, and you're like, well, Palm can do that very well, but with the Tassadar, with his own self-sustain, and with all the other tools, hitting the Palm suddenly becomes extremely difficult.
Yes. You hit the Palm, and then Tassadar hits the shield, and all of a sudden the entire plan goes awry. You are trying to hit the Palm, and then there comes the Cocoon, you find yourself in the same situation. So Illidan, if he goes in this game for the Metamorphosis, has to be careful, but right now, he's reigning supreme, taking down Greymane.
Yeah, that was a very good counter initiation from MVP Black. You could see kind of moving as tides of water back and forth through that fight to ensure that they had the proper positioning, and a lot of that came down to also the gank from L5, missing the W on the Singularity Spike out of Zeratul, single-handedly allowed Kyoto to survive, enable Reset to suddenly become the problem that is known as Illidan.
Yeah, and one of the things that, of course, works quite well against Illidan is still the stuns. And we have a couple of possible stuns, definitely even in the setup. Void Prison is also going to be a huge factor later on, not only the Cocoon. If you can Cocoon or Void Prison the Karazim and then go for the Illidan, you have a good time. But right now, MVP Black is just going for it.
Yeah, they are just using this 3-man, the tri-lane, to just be so dominant over the Abathur composition of L5. Meriday gets the shield, gets the dash. Reset has friend. No, he doesn't have friend or foe yet. 4 is still not achieved, and now L5 gets another pit.
There we go. So after we've seen MVP Black move through that bot lane and wreak havoc on that lane, we now have L5 at least with a bit of punishment against Illidan. So he's not allowed to do everything here in this game.
Yeah, not total free reign. At least some ounce of respect coming out here. But the laning phase of MVP Black has been pretty successful, again, because of Abathur. We always know that it struggles into the early parts of the game. You don't always look at Illidan as maybe the most dominant early gamer. It all depends on the matchup of the opponents here. But I like that MVP is just not stopping. You know, they're carrying the momentum over from the last series in their comp and also in their play against L5.
And it's where Illidan thrives. You need to build up the momentum, and you really want to drive it home into your opponent's heart. It's one of the big reasons why, with Illidan, we always talk about distance to safety. Once the map opens up, Illidan can thrive so much more because you can chase your opponent to the end of the map. At this point, we're talking about the first objective. And of course, there's Siege Giants taken at the bot lane. But we have a channel from Swoi nearly uninterrupted as Saka is finally taking charge of the situation.
Huge advantage by MVP Black having those Giants moving down. They aren't gaining value yet, but they should in the long run. Abathur has a horrific time trying to clear those on his own. And that forces L5 to forfeit the tribute here. And the initiation from MVP Black is not going to commit, but they find themselves 1 level ahead already.
Yeah. That is the biggest problem here, that MVP Black has an entire level. And you know, if they can take the next tribute fast, it will mean that most likely MVP Black is gonna get a curse for free, just simply because without the 10 on the side of L5, it's really rough for them to engage into a late game fight, and MVP Black will hit the 10 a lot faster, so there is definitely a potential for MVP Black just running with the momentum and trying to snowball the map.
Yeah, it's very important that L5 does not let the 10 spike curse moment happen. It's just, you know, you can deal with the 10-on-10 Illidan composition with the curse against you, but you cannot handle the siege and the pressure because Illidan, I mean, a lot of people forget this, but he can just dive past the wall by himself, take the keep on his own. If you don't have 10 to deal with him, and anybody who wants to match that, he straight up just goes, I am prepared for this battle. You have no chain CC. Most heroics are, you know, are crowd controlled to be able to deal with him.
Yeah.
So I like what they managed to happen here, but they have to, you know, L5 has to find a breaking point on this pressure.
After 10,000 years of practice, he better be prepared, and that's what we're going to see very soon, because the next objective is spawning on the map.
Yeah, and look at L5's not even moving Zeratul down. They're just going to keep him top, hope that there's some kind of a misplay, misrotation on the side of MVP, but they are concerned about their experience.
How do they prevent the curse?
Well, you know, you can't, but I'll be honest, I don't mind early curses. I think they're honestly one of the weaker. Oh, nice stun on the reset. Friend or foe?
Gets out, or does he? As CSC goes in and gets the kill. Illidan is down, and Greymane lives. No, he doesn't. Nice dash by Meriday. Jumps in, jumps out, gets the kill. Well done.
If he hits W, it's a kill. He goes in. Nice Tash shield. The knockup is there, though.
Nice.
Meriday falls down. He did have great punishment, but it's enough for Zheng Ha to get the flank.
You know, we were just talking about the early curses. Now, I agree with you. An early curse is something that traditionally doesn't do as much damage. It's easy to close the gap later on again, especially if you can hit a curse on your own and you pick up structures. The one thing that worries me a bit is that with a curse and the Illidan, maybe they gain enough momentum to really take a lot here. But so far, I have to say, L5 is fighting back quite nicely.
Yeah, they are doing a great job so far into it. It is interesting, because it comes down to, like, I view tributes and curses early game all come down to how many I have, how many they have, that level power spike, and more importantly, above all else, it's globals. If I have a global, I actually feel comfortable sacrificing that because win conditions are rare on Cursed Hollow. I like the idea of waiting for a larger one for a global to be so very oppressive. The knockup, though, for this initiation is their reset falls very, very low, and he's not going to go down. He actually goes back in using the evasion. SCSC is the one to fall.
Wow, no fear, no shame. Illidan goes in again, and thanks to Tacita and the shields, they get the kill. Karazim is dead, though. So is Greymane on the other hand, and Smoy is on the run as Tis on his Arthur gets the lockdown, and that's the kill against Uther. He is down, and this is a curse against L5.
The curse against L5. So how much can MVP Black make happen? They've already managed to take out so much onto the bottom part of the map. That fort will just fall inevitably. So focus through mid, focus up onto top. I would like to see that aggression we referred to with the 10 spike, but that window is so small that L5 isn't panicked. You know, we've talked about the fear of that moment. It is going to be settled for now. It's just L5 has to make a way to get the 10 and look for initiation afterwards. I would really love that. Or force the fight mid-curse so they can't siege for free.
Yeah, we have, talking about siege, the mid lane destroyed. At the top lane, we see Li Ming doing solid work. And here comes once again Illidan. The 10 isn't there for L5. There is no fear on him. He takes down the Slugger and also jumps straight onto the next target. Zeratul falls as Illidan uses the hunt to dive in deep.
That's exactly what I was talking about with cursed Illidans too. They legitimately have no fear of any part of the map because they can always dash over everything. It's just you 1v1 them, they have too much mobility to keep track of, and with that beautiful engage catching out the Abathur, we find ourselves with a 2-level advantage here for MVP.
That's exactly what I was afraid of when we were talking about the early curse here. I completely agree that if L5 is able to pick that 10 up a bit faster and counters MVP Black, the value you get out of the curse is really diminished. But this is, I feel, the ideal scenario when we are considering an early curse for MVP Black. Could you have gotten any more than they just did?
I mean, you know, in a perfect world, maybe, but in a realistic one, probably not. So they got a lot of things done with that curse. The bosses are going to be traded here. This is standard post-curse Cursed Hollow. Arthas with the transition down should be too late. There's no way Tis can move up. The Cocoon's going to force this fight. There's no 13 talent here. Nice use of Disintegrate. Howling Blast. MVP's going to force.
There's the hunt. Illidan goes in. Feel the hatred of 10,000 years. New gets in and tries to wreck Uther. Once again, the shield is there as Tassadar pops the Archon. They're chasing them. Uther down already. MVP Black with the momentum getting a kill.
I mean, just L5 with that engagement. MVP Black is just catching them off guard. They have no expectation of them being on that side of the map. They ignore the boss.
Exactly. What do you mean there's a boss on our fort? Do we care? Why would we? We go for the keep.
And the reason why that's so impactful in a positive trade across the board for MVP Black is because clearing the top keep wall allowed 2 turrets to not be shooting now on top of the boss itself. And then look at 2 turrets are going to be focusing on the boss on bottom. It's 8 minutes in. Bosses are essentially useless at this stage of the game. And you know, I mean, you see also, that here.
Yeah, the next point is bosses are very weak early on in the game. The scaling is going to make them so much more effective though. And what Black just did, they opened the top and the bot lane, both boss lanes, they opened the wall. So any boss they take later on will walk straight up to a keep, and that is just absolutely perfect if you are trying to control the game, get the early keep, and then go for core.
But one of, you know, when we were talking about the curse or not, whether or not it's worth it, either way, we have to focus on the levels. That was a full 2-level lead over to MVP Black, and that is now the Abathur effect coming into play. He's slowly creeping the experience back into their favor. We still see them forfeiting a lot of structures, but there is a window where L5, if they even get one major pick, they can swing the momentum of experience exponentially.
Yeah, and here's the one point. L5 has not 5-man yet. So at the boss or during the curse, they were trying to defend. Was a kill against them, but it was always someone attempting to defend there. The boss change after that happened, and they had Greyman at the top defending against the boss of MVP Black. There was no 5-man yet, where they could use the Void Prison and all their tools to really put the pressure onto Illidan on the side of MVP Black. And that is something that we're very soon going to see.
Yeah, and look at the experience. It's just that one level now, thanks to the bottom 4 helping with a little bit of experience. Because, oh, wait a minute. The party invite's out here, Caldor. Does MVP Black respond? Nope, they're the party poopers. They're going to go ahead and just drop it down.
Don't accept the invitation just yet, but I'm sure that L5 would love to force the issue here if they can.
Or not to keep. That is the question, Caldor.
Yeah, and Illidan says, you know what? Keeps are pretty cool. I'm going to take one.
Yep. Abathur has no mules, so this is going to be permanent damage. The delay is real for MVP Black. No members are able to move out. So much so that Noblesse, it looks like he's just going to mount and nope out. Nope, they're coming back. They're going to go for it. This is going to be a forced fight. Illidan is nowhere near hunt range.
Illidan is moving into hunt range. He could have tried to go back into the key, but he doesn't do that. He wants to jump in here. There's already the clone and Abathur. They're attempting to blow Tist apart. Illidan with the hunt goes in and goes deep. Here's the Void Prison in the back, and Illidan barely saves himself.
There's the skill matchup we were talking about between those two, but Reset's only so low. Mary Day does get that palm. Greymane with the Divine Shield gets the disengage, gets onto Tist, but Reset should be able to clean house if he can get on anyone.
Arthur's down, so is Greymane. A 4 versus 4, and this is the Illidan show. He goes in once again, and this time Swoy is the target. They isolate him completely. The rest of the team lets him die. Not a Nohana moment here on the map. And in this situation, this was also the best that L5 could do. Sacrifice one target to save the rest of the team.
And it's really an interesting dynamic. The fact that Zeratul exists on the side of L5, debatably one of the easiest initiators in the entire game. And though it was a 5 versus 4, you saw L5 had about 20 seconds to decide, is that Illidan a problem? And they debated for 19 of them until Illidan made his way into hunt range. The Void Force was essentially useless because they were using it as a deterrent, not an opener. If L5 wants to do that, you don't have to use Void, but I need you to act quicker here, or this MVP Black Illidan composition is going to win.
I was actually a bit surprised that Illidan even moved into hunt range. He was in the bush at first and was waiting a bit and debating, okay, do I go back? Do I go in and take the keep? And then L5 reinitiated the fight, and at this point Illidan could have made the choice to just say, you know what, I'm getting that keep. You might get a kill or two and get the tribute, but the keep is mine. Decided to hunt in, and it turned out in their favor. MVP Black is looking so much stronger than what we've seen so far.
But the Abathur effect, the experience is almost even in this game. It was 2-level advantage in favor of MVP Black, and that is why, I like that stall game whenever you have an Abathur here on Cursed Hollow. Granted, maybe a bit lucky that MVP Black is not more ahead in this game, but L5 has managed to hold on. They're still waiting for the 16. Noblesse is a bit too far out, but now the channel is not even attempted yet, so L5 should have this fight.
16 versus 16 is now ready. We're having once again out at the top the 5-man on the side of MVP Black. And here comes the hunt. Illidan goes deep for it. There's the shield and immediately the Void Prison. But this is not enough.
It's not enough. The channel is not even going to be completed there by Swoy. Noblesse drops a cocoon immediately. The disintegrate every time Sake is there.
Divine Shield is there. Cooldown trade in favor of MVP Black with a disintegrate against the cocoon. They're moving in once again. Noblesse in trouble.
He's in trouble. He's just getting body blocked to death. MVP Black is just ruthless here with this death ball composition. And again,
it's a curse.
It's a curse. It's a kill. And this is going to be a minimum double keep, probably triple keep, if not game.
This is insane. They are completely bringing the pain right now. MVP Black. They needed the blind guy to make it happen. They're moving into the bot lane, trying to take the keep down. Both bosses are on the map. Here comes the hunt once again. They want their kill and they go in for it. But SCSC moves out at the same time. Illidan is not done just yet. Re-diving into this. Everything is falling apart for L5. Every lane pushed in as MVP Black wants the massive lead, dropping the keeps. The final circle of protection at the core.
L5 just has to dance back and forth between the core, between the wells to make sure that they keep themselves alive. But that is now the second keep to fall. Bottom actually cleared here too. MVP Black needs to disengage away from this fight because it's the only way L5 can come back.
They are re-engaging though. They want another kill and they get it. Zeratul is down. They lose Arthas once again. Illidan with the hunt jumps back in as C moves out, tries to get the cocktail. Merida with the dash out surviving, but here comes the disintegrate as they're going once more for Graemhin. It is kill after kill, Dread. This has to be game.
That is going to be it. Illidan on the core at this stage. The shield's already done. MVP Black shows that they have some fight still left in them, tying up the series 2-2.
If you would have told me after the first 2 games that Black is going to make the 5th map a reality, I would have called you crazy. But this is a completely different beast that we are now talking about.
Yeah, it's just, you know, and it makes game number 5, I don't even know where it goes anymore.
Yeah.
This whole series, it's just every single time I'm like, I've got this figured out. I've said it all day, like the whole tournament. Korean teams and their power spikes just shift so heavily one way or the other for me, and I've never been able to track it down. But I am happy, especially here for MVP Black, with their tournament lives on the line. Meriday's last tournament on top of it all, to at least see them put up a beautiful series here.
The series goes once again to the 5th map here. It seems to be a tradition between the teams, and this is gonna get really nasty. L5 has won so many games in a row, but now they lost 2. The momentum is broken, and they seem to be shaken by it. The question now is, can they recover on a 5th map?
I don't know. I actually have no idea draft-wise where this is going to go. Strategy-wise, it's just all up to these 2 teams, and I'm excited to figure it all out. But either way, to bring it to us all is going to be the analyst test.
That's right. Thank you very much. 2-2 at the moment. MVP Black somehow, some way, is able to tie it up, and they did look very, very dominant there on Cursed Hollow. It seems like all of the momentum is swinging in their favor.
Yeah, I think Abathur mitigated much of the advantage that MVP Black was able to get, but it was that amazing Illidan, Tassadar early push potential. They were level 4 when L5 was level 3. And then they got 3 consecutive curses.
Yeah.
Tributes. They got the curse, they got the 2-level lead, they got the first boss. So they did get a lot out of that early game. That very initial laning phase determined much. It looked like there were signs of life from L5, but in the end, the team fights by MVP Black were too good. And Reset just played out of his mind on Illidan.
Yeah.
Despite getting isolated away from his team, with his whole team in VP, he still doesn't die. I don't get it.
It felt like they really had not much at all to answer to Reset on that Illidan. It was very strong.
6 tributes to 0 was the final count. I mean, L5 put up no contention against that. And I don't know what replay he has, but there was a moment there towards the end to where Illidan comes in, we see stun, we see benediction go down, and then we see like split focus all over the place from L5. I don't know if their priority targeting was off. I don't know what happened with that fight, but I feel like there was supposed to be more in response to that. They had all the tools that just didn't work together. I don't know, but L5 definitely looked like they were under pressure.
Maybe when Illidan turns on evasion, they momentarily attack something else, because this was a very heavily auto-attack focused team by L5 against Illidan, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a replay of the ending of the game there, and I can show you here right now. I mean, honestly, this was their last attempt to kill it, and you see the Zeratul flanking. They don't have Void Prison. Look at the Illidan's HP bar. It literally just does not move here. And like you said, Grubby, that's because they are all auto-attack damage outside of the Abathur. You have Greymane Zeratul heavily auto-attack damage focused. Even the Nubrak with the level 13 talent went for the auto-attack damage. So once L5 was even in this game, there was really nothing they could do to stop the Illidan. I mean, it's just the Illidan show when you're even with all auto-attack damage against a Tassadar Illidan. The most disappointing thing to me was just the early game by L5. I mean, you have an Abathur composition, you have a Greymane, he pushes faster than Illidan does. And instead of trading forts, which like even something like a top American team would do something like that. Yeah. If you have Abathur Greymane, your objective early game is to trade forts because it opens the map, it gives your Abathur more space to work with, and Greymane pushes actually slightly faster than Illidan, so at the very worst, you trade fort for fort. So instead of doing that, they try to fight the Illidan lane constantly, and then as soon as they started losing, they just completely lost control of the game. If they don't have control of early game there's no way L5 can win.
Well, they've pushed it all the way. It's going to be game number 5 now here between our 2 Korean teams. And to be honest, wouldn't have it any other way in terms of these 2 world champions going up against each other on the grand stage, fighting for advancement to face either Dignitas or elimination. It all comes down now to one more map, Grubby.
Yeah, I feel like if L5 had won 3 games in a row, it'll be like kind of meh. Yeah, you said you wouldn't have it any other way, and I completely agree here. Now I will feel convinced that whoever wins this will be, beyond the shadow of a doubt, the deserving winner.
Yes. We're going to be on Towers of Doom for game number 5 between these 2 teams. And there could be a lot of craziness that happens here. I think we'll probably end up seeing the Abathur, the Hackers being rivaled from one another again. But there's even some crazier picks that Korea doesn't kind of go into. If you're thinking about some European previous strategies, things like Vikings can occur, but very unlikely in a Korea versus Korea.
I think definitely unlikely. I was checking my notes. This is statistically L5's worst map win percentage-wise.
Right.
And MVP Black does a phenomenal job. And again, the narrative of the last time these teams played, it was a 2-0